Hi, I'm Dr. Angela McBurdy of DoctorFlute.com, and today's flute tip is on what to do in a 30-minute practice session. We all have busy lifestyles, and apart from being at college where you're a flute major and you have, well, I know you don't think you have built-in time to practice because you have classes and all that, but you really do have built-in time to be playing flute. You're in ensembles, you have practice time, you have a lot of opportunities to play the flute. But when you are out in your real life and in your job, and you have a family, and you have to make dinner, and you have to take kids to soccer practice, and you have to take them to lessons, and you have to do whatever it is that makes your life busy, your practice time becomes an absolute premium. And when you get a chance to practice, then you need to make the most of that time. And so I've gone through various iterations of what to do when I only have a tiny bit of time to practice. And sometimes that just means I just run through all my scales and say, that'll have to do. I was just going to keep my lip going for today because I've got no other opportunity to practice. Life is really busy in my household. I have 4 kids. I've homeschooled them all. I teach at 2 colleges. I have a private studio, which has been pretty large. And I maintain DoctorFlute.com and making videos for this YouTube channel. Life is busy. Those 4 kids have lots of activities. Finding time to prepare for a recital can be a little bit tricky. So I've come up with my plan, and it's based on the fact that one time when I was in music school and I was talking to one of my piano player friends, I was just flabbergasted when they said, all they ever practice are solos. And here I am struggling along in my practice room with my Taffenel Gomert and my Marcel Moyse tone studies and then my etudes. And then finally, when I'm done with all that, I get to practice my 5 or 6 different solos that I'm working on at one time. And to find out that pianists only practice their solos, I know that there's some Hannon and Czerny books when your younger days, but I think, at least from what I understand, when you're at music school and you're a piano major, you just work on your technique within that solo. And I think that we flute players can do that as well. Is it ideal? Probably not. I would much rather have my practice time divided into my thirds, and I've got enough time to do my tone and technique, enough time to do etudes, and enough time to do my solos. But that's not always reality once life hits. So today I'm going to talk about how you can practice everything within your solo. For today, I'm going to use the C major sonata by Bach. It's a great one to work on, and it's very popular, and maybe you're working on this sonata or solo as well, and you don't have a lot of time. So let me talk to you about how I approach a solo if I have to practice tone and technique, which is 1/3 of your practice time, etudes, which is another 1/3 of your practice time, and solos, which becomes your last 1/3 of your practice time. I'm going to practice all of that in this solo, which basically means all my etude kinds of ideas are going to be wrapped up in probably my faster movements, and my tone is going to be wrapped up in the slower movements. Let's get to work and talk about this. So in any practice time, I want to start off with technique. Now, there are the people who are tone people and the people who are technique people. I'm a technique person, and that's the first thing I want to do. I know other people who say the first thing they want to do is play a joyous sound. That's good for you. It doesn't work for me. First thing I want to do is make my fingers move and get my lip going, because I just don't feel like I'm going to make that joyous sound unless my muscles up here are beginning to get warmed up. The first thing I'm going to do is technique. So technique and tone are the first third of your practice, and I'm going to worry about technique first, and I'm going to do that in the second movement, which is the allegro of the C major Bach sonata. All right, so I'm going to start. So it's that movement, okay? Now, when I do technique, I want to practice my articulations at the same time as I practice the notes. And so in order to do that, I need to put my metronome on. And that's gonna keep my fingers very steady. If you look at your C major, so if you have it, go turn this off and go get your C major, and so that you can follow along as I do it. I'm not going to play through the entire movement, but I'm going to show you how we would approach it so that I really work on my fingers getting warmed up, my mouth getting warmed up, and at the same time, I'm going to be learning the technique of this particular movement. So then I'm working on the solo at the same time that I work on tone and technique, and it becomes an etude as well. It's going to work all those areas all at the same time. So I'm sort of simultaneously going to be working on tone and technique, etude, and solo, all wrapped up in this piece. All right, so I'm just going to say started at 60 here. I'll turn it up a little bit so I can hear it. Okay. I'm going to start off with slurring, because it's the opposite of what's written here. What's written here is to double tongue everything, because we all know this move, it's a very fast movement. You get to double tongue all the way. It's very fun. But say I don't know it. So I'm going to start off with a slur. I'm going to use Taffanel and Gobert's number 1 or number 2 articulation, which is 10 different articulations. I'm going to put my metronome, I have it on at 60, and I'm going to slur. Now, if you notice, I took a breath there in the middle. When you're going slowly, because you're learning it and you're waking everything up, take a breath where you need to. That is not the important part right now. You're going to take a breath. You know, if you can make it at that tempo, more power to you. But if not, take your breath. Now I'm going to do the next line, so a couple other measures here. Now, if this were an etude, I would now go back and just do a couple lines at a time. I usually divide my etude into 3 lines or so, 2, maybe 3, usually not 4. And now I go back and do all those different articulations. So it's slur 3, tongue 1. Tongue 1, slur 3. Slur 2, tongue 2. Now, as I am doing this and doing slur 2, tongue 2, then I'm going to do tongue 2, slur 2. I'm going to double tongue every chance that I get, even though it's slow enough that I could be single tonguing, because ultimately I'm going to be double tonguing this piece. And if I'm going to double tongue in the end, why not practice that coordination and the tonguing right now? For my other articulations, it is a single tongue, and I'm really concentrating on keeping my tongue a nice point, and putting it as far forward as I can get so my articulation remains very clear. Now I will tongue 2, slur 2. so on. And I would probably do more than just that one line. I would do a couple lines. And then I'm going to move down and do some more. Now, my tone is going to start waking up. So these muscles are now functioning because I'm working my fingers. My fingers are starting to move. Now I can think about my tone quality. Now, as I'm warming up here and using this solo, I may or may not really be thinking so much about, oh, what is the performance practice tone that I want right in this piece. I think right now, as I'm using this piece to warm up with, I'm going to use sort of my default tone. But I may want to say, oh, because I don't have time to do long tones. Maybe I'm going to use a little edgier sound. So I'm going to explore my tone. Right now, I'm sort of using my default sound. So don't get all worked up about, oh, you need to be working on your performance practice sound, that woodier sound, that back vibrato. I'm not really concerned about that. I'm just using this piece as my warm-up piece, and as I get to know it better, and maybe I can eke out some extra practice time later on a weekend, then I will worry about the actual tone quality that I want to have in the end on this. All right, so now I'm going to start thinking about tone. So as I play this opening, I want to think, what are the important notes, harmonically speaking, as I go through this first line? And those notes, I'm going to concentrate on what type of sound that I'm looking for right now, and making sure that I have a clear sound. Sometimes when we're tonguing quickly and we're going through this very middle register stuff, a note just is missed, and often it's the D or the E flat or the E. And that has to do with how you are aiming your air and the size of your embouchure hole. Pay close attention to that as you are using this piece as a warm-up piece, and don't allow a note to be missed. There's so many times where I'm teaching a student, say, well, you missed the D there, and they have no clue that they missed it because it's hidden amongst all those other notes that they did get out and that sounded really good. So, oops, I lost my page here. There we go. I'm back. So I want you to pay attention to that. Don't let some note hidden in that first line there as you're going through be completely missed. And if you think that might be happening to you, then record that and listen back to see, wait, was every note crystal clear? So right now, I'm taking the first note of my group of four because that is more important. Okay, I'm going to do that again and think, do I like my tone? Is it clear? Am I keeping a good ta on it? Now the next line. All right, I'm going to really make sure that that's clear. Now, maybe I want to put it back into the 16th notes, but I'm going to perhaps not put it in rhythmic context to make sure that that sound is coming out more prominently than maybe notes 2, 3, and 4. All right, now that's how I'm going to approach this. So I've covered etude, tone, and technique only in this movement too. let's take a look at movement 1, and I'm going to concentrate a little bit more on tone here. Now in movement 1, we have a really nice melody that I like to separate between what I would say is sort of the basso continuo sound and the flute sound. I think there's 2 layers of melody going on in this particular movement. So we're playing the andante. This is movement 1. Here's what it sounds like. And don't get all bent out of shape. I did miss a C sharp accidental in there. It is there. I just didn't play it. Okay, so that's the first 2 lines of this particular movement. Now, I'm going to start working on tone because this is not about technique, this particular movement. I want to hear the bass line and I want to hear the flute line. So the bass line are really, let's just say, the first of your 4. Then again. Okay, now those notes are the notes I call your bass line. And while I'm doing tone, I want to think about my tone on those notes. Very middle register. Again, sometimes this is a hard register to get a fantastic tone on. So I'm going to work very hard. I'm not pressing hard. All right, I don't want to. So if I press it hard, I'm going to get a different tone. And I need to make sure that that is nice and light. I'm also thinking my angle of air through here because this is a practice. I'm practicing my tone. What angle do I want here and what is the sound I'm looking for? Or do I want my default sound? And then if that is the case, do I have a fantastic default sound? Now I like to do this kind of thing with Anderson etudes because there's always, well, almost always, a beautiful melody that's happening, especially if you're Opus 15 and in your Opus 33, you still even can find them in Opus 40, I think it's 40. So you can look at those, and so now I'm tying into etude practice as well. Now, since those notes are what I like to say is the cello, and then the flute does this. Join up right there at the end, okay? That is the flute part. Now I'm going to put them together, but I'm working on tone. I'm not working on authentic performance practice right now. I'm learning it. I'm warming up. My fingers are really getting to know the piece because I'm doing these different things with it. just going to do that a little bit. Now, when I've taken it apart like that to really hold those melody notes, what reveals to me musically, and this is what I like to have revealed in etudes as well, is that the 3 flute notes are really a pickup into the next beat, that next melody note, that next cello note. So you're always doing the pickup into it. Okay, so this is how I would be practicing the 30 minutes that's given to me, say, in a given day, because I have kids going here and kids going there. And I only have a little bit of practice time. This is what I would do. There's more than this movement. I've just used 2 movements to show you, and I haven't taken all of the 30 minutes here, but you can see how it'd be easy to get your practice time in using only your solo. Is it ideal? No, but life is rarely ideal, and we don't have all the time in the world to do everything. And yes, sometimes the only thing that I can do in a day is run through my scales just to keep my fingers limber and my embouchure loose, I guess, and warmed up, so that the next time that I get more opportunity, my tone is not going to have to start from square one because I'm so out of shape. 30 minutes a day can really keep you in shape. You can learn your solos, and if you're an etude person, then use your etude as your solo. If you don't really have a solo that you're working on or that you care to really learn right now, then use an etude and spend all your time working on all those things in your etude. If you've got even 45 minutes, I would say, okay, let's split your time into 15 minutes of tone and technique, 15 minutes of an etude, and 15 minutes of a solo. But so many times 30 minutes is all you get, and because of jobs and kids and situations that don't afford you the opportunity to practice longer. You can get all you need in 30 minutes. Have fun having a 30-minute practice session. Don't think that you're missing out. You're going to get everything in that practice session, and you're still going to progress. Watch this video again if you forget what you should be doing and how you should be focusing your time, and bring back, it'll refresh your memory. Have fun having a 30-minute practice session. That's today's flute tip. If you like this video, press the like button, subscribe, comment below, and share it with your friends.